I broke my wrist in March and my medical bills ended up being $829, but my health plan actually helped me absorb it without touching my emergency fund whatsoever. So I'm going to walk you through how I was able to do that and the one optimization I'm going to try to get to going forward. Hey guys, it's Kerry, and last week we talked about me needing to do and extend my emergency fund to my rental property and not only just for my personal finances. This week we're going to be getting into something a little bit different, and that'll be on a different side of personal emergencies that could happen, and that is my health side, along with my HSA, which is a health savings account. And we're going to get into the framework of what I put around it and how it is working today and how it did help, but also how we can improve it going forward with taking one optimization that's a small change, but will make a big difference going forward. So to start, we're going to go ahead and get into the story. So I was on my bachelor trip, having a good time. And one of the first activities we decided to do was to go and do an ATV tour. And this one was self-guided, so we got to go in the desert with our group and just go do our thing. So we were out in the desert, and the first thing that we seen when we get out there is you have a steep drop just to go into the desert to get off the street. And out right there, we was like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting. But then once we get to the steep drop, we have to come back up. And when I tell you that we were going from this to like up to this angle, going up on the ATV, we all couldn't believe it. We was like, oh wow, this is some serious stuff. But that kind of had some people excited, it had some people nervous. And as we were going through the terrain, we ended up having like some of our group being ahead, some of our group being behind. But since the bachelor trip was my bachelor trip and I wanted to make sure everybody was good, I was trying to make sure I could keep an eye on the front and the back of the party. And that wasn't exactly the easiest thing to do, especially with the terrain changing so much. And the injury ended up actually happening when I was seeing people were getting ahead, but one of my homeboys was behind. So I'm over here like, okay, cool. Let me see where he's at. Cool, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And basically I had looked back one time and I looked forward and I said, oh, I'm a little bit too far to the left. So let me go ahead and try to fix that. And I said, boom. And when I hit the rock, it was like a wall, and it ended up jamming the handlebar back into my hand so hard that it broke like this bone right here. So I ended up like wrapping it when it initially happened, probably a few hours later. And my hand was like just big as a baseball glove. It was just huge. So I ended up wrapping it up, and that's happened pretty early in my bachelor trip. So I was walking around Vegas. In Vegas, you have to walk everywhere, otherwise it's gonna take forever or be expensive to get rideshare. So that ended up happening, and that's kind of like, not kind of, but that's exactly how I ended up messing up my wrist. Now, you see me in 5 episodes with this cast on, and it's been off from last episode before this one, and I'm glad it's still off today. So the bone is fully healed, and we're basically working back to getting full range of motion, because the bone's fully healed, but if you actually don't move your joints, they stiffen, and I didn't know that. So when I got out the cast, and I was like, oh, something must be wrong because I can't really move my hand. And he was like, nope, that's normal. You gotta work your range of motion back, and you should be able to get it back within a month. If not, come see me, and then we can assign you a hand specialist to help you out, but it is expensive. Most people your age are able to bounce back just fine. So as of like, what was it, almost 2 weeks, I'm able to bend my wrist this far. This is my normal wrist where you can bend, and this is about as far as I can get, and this is the upside of that, and this is the upside with my normal hand. So getting range of motion back slowly day by day. Hopefully I don't have to see them, but that's pretty much where I'm at so far, and I think I'm pretty much wrapped up on everything. But it is one of the things, I just didn't think it was relevant to the episode, and I already knew that. I was like, let me just see the financials of what happens, and I'll report back to you guys on the things that I learned. So here we are. Now that we discussed what happened and how we got here, I want to go ahead and go over my actual medical plan that I have for my company. So your employers that typically give you 2 choices, and that is the PPO, preferred provider. It was a preferred provider plan. I forgot what PPO actually stands for, so we can pop it up on the screen. And then there is the high deductible, low premium payment plan, or option that you can have from your employer. And this one is what I selected, because it's a higher premium, well, higher deductible, not higher premium. It's a higher deductible, meaning that whenever something does happen, you have a higher amount that you have to pay before the insurance kicks in, but it has a lower premium, which is the amount that actually comes out of your check no matter what. And this one also has another big benefit, which is that it's HSA eligible, which is the health savings account. You can actually have a health savings account when you have this type of plan. And it's the reason that I really picked it was because that this plan allows me to have that account. And this account is super advantageous, in which I will get into shortly after going through the details of what it actually costs me. So the plan itself I have through my employer is the team member plus my spouse, which is Soleil. And then the premium for us is $143.70 every 2 weeks. And that is $3,736 a year out of my paycheck just to have health insurance. And then the PPO plan, which is the one that has co-pays that are lower, so your lower out-of-pocket costs, but your monthly expense or premium is actually higher. That one would have been $206.08 every 2 weeks, which is $5,358 a year. And that would have cost me $62.38 more per check. And over a year, that's $1,620 extra that I'm paying towards the PPO plan. And I decided not to do that because I can, get a plan with a lower amount. And the deductibles between the two is the high deductible low premium plan is $3,300 per individuals or $4,000 for family. So that means that if I have out-of-pocket expenses of $3,300 by myself, or Soleil has out-of-pocket expenses of $3,300 by herself, or if we both together have a combined expenses of $4,000, then the insurance kicks in and we don't have to pay anything else when it comes to visiting the doctor. And then that's for in-network doctors. If the doctor is out of network, and that just means the insurance doesn't work directly with them, then the out-of-pocket max is $6,000 for individual, $12,000 for family, and that's the same between the PPO and the high deductible low premium plan. And this is one of the things I do want to cover, because worst case scenario, if something does happen and runs up the hospital bill, both plans are going to end up being the same, where at worst case, I can be out of $12,000 because me and Soleil together are technically the family plan. Or if one of us has an expense of that much, then the highest we can go per person is $6,000. With that in mind, it does make sense for people to take the PPO and plan over the high deductible low premium plan, depending on what you have going on. It's an example that can make sense is that if you know that you visit the doctor quite often, and for example, my insurance with the PPO plan is only $20 to visit your primary care outside of not routine maintenance, but your preventative care, which is fully covered. And there's $50 for a specialist and $300 for like imaging, like an MRI, or $400 if you go to the ER. And if you know that you have frequent visits, it can make sense to take the PPO plan, because you could actually end up saving yourself more money because you know the frequency of the visits that you need to go. But for the high deductible low premium plan, it doesn't work the same. So for that one, the insurance actually has a negotiated rate with the people that are in network. And with those negotiated rates, the insurance is already saving you money by having a discounted rate, but they don't pay anything to help you towards those expenses you have until you hit that deductible. And once again, in my example, that's $3,300. If it's just me by myself or Soleil by herself, and together as a family, it's no more than $4,000. And before that, I'm paying whatever the out-of-pocket expenses are. For example, my insurance negotiated office visit on March 16th for a negotiated rate of $86.54. So that's something I pay out of pocket from my HSA plan or account. And I know HSA already has an account in it, but from my HSA. And the same thing on the PPO would have been $20. But even though the difference is you see the difference right there, remember that there's already $1,620 extra just to go with the PPO plan. And even though I would have saved $66 on that out-of-pocket expense, I'm still technically $1,554 ahead on this, because that's just that one visit. It'd be different. I would have to go to a lot more visits to eat up that extra $1,600 plus to make it even. It's one of the things that I just want to make sure, because like I said earlier, if you have a bunch of visits where you can do the math to see that it works out, then the PPO plan will make sense to you. But in my case, I don't really go to the doctor super duper often, and it's one of the things where it makes more sense for me to not pay as much on my monthly expenses and be able to save up into that health savings account to be able to pay those out-of-pocket expenses and have a lower overall cost, because I am fine with paying out of pocket versus just putting it into the insurance to have lower copays. The other cool thing as well is that with the high deductible low premium plan is to really just hone in on the fact that you have a health savings account, and it has 3 advantages when it comes to like any other account that you can have in general in life. One, that the money that you contribute towards it is a tax deduction. It reduces your taxable income. And then the second thing is any money that grows in there, because you can invest your HSA. So that's one thing. Another thing is that you can compound your money there. And then any other growth from that account is actually never taxed as long as you use it for medical expenses. So those are 3 things that are really big that in my mind, especially since I'm so young and I have a lot of time to be able to compound this money in the HSA to grow, it's like a no-brainer for me to even eat. If the PPO plan even was like break even and they were the same, to me it's worth eating the cost, even though that's not the case today, but it's worth eating the cost just to be able to invest. But like I said earlier, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the same for everybody. It's just like what really works for me, and I always want to at least be transparent of why I made the decision that I did on going with the high deductible low premium plan, and also telling you about the advantages of having a health savings account or a HSA. It doesn't mean that the PPO plan is bad, but it's one of the things where I would really sit down and just see what type of medical expenses you have coming up and see what actually makes the most sense for you. And this is just what made the most sense for me, was the high deductible low premium plan. I want to go ahead now and get into how my HSA is actually working, since I'm saying that this is the start of the show. One thing I will add before we get into this is that my company actually rewards us for choosing a high deductible low premium plan, to where they actually give us $800 a year into that account without us needing to contribute anything, just by us participating in a high deductible low premium plan. So as far as my contribution into my HSA itself, we end up doing through my employer $76.92 per paycheck. And obviously that's pre-tax, so that gets to take down my taxable income, and it's paid before it even hits my account. The other side of that is that $800 is also split up over the checks. So my employer gives me $30.77 per check. So that adds up to the $800 at the end of the year. And then that's a combined $107.69 into the account every 2 weeks. So that ends up being around $2,800 total that goes into our HSA account every year. And the actual limit for the HSA account for families is actually $8,750 this year. So we're well under that. And it's one of the things I haven't prioritized, because like we said in the previous episode and plenty of episodes ago, right now we're worried about funding our regular emergency fund before we get into anything else. And this is one of the things where it's like, we're doing enough now to get by and not pull from our emergency fund for health reasons. But it's one of the things that I do think I should be taking advantage of, because that is a tax deduction just literally by putting money in my health savings account, which I can spend for our own medical expenses. The other thing that I'll say as well is there's one other side to this, and it's the way that the HSA allows you to reimburse yourself. So I did this because I wanted something that is HSA eligible. There are a lot of items out there that are HSA eligible. When I went to get a wrap at the CVS, when I messed up my hand, that was able to be done on my HSA. There's HSA eligible things such as like health stuff. So think of like the massage guns. Just go out there and look to see if it's HSA eligible. And you can literally use your health savings account to purchase that. And I even ended up getting something called Normatec. Normatec is not something that a lot of people are familiar with, but if you're an athlete, you probably are. is they have compression like boots that you can put on your legs, allow the blood flow to be circulated through your leg to help with better recovery. And matter of fact, that just reminded me that I should probably get into them tonight because I haven't been in them in a while. And these type of things you can actually keep your receipts for and get reimbursed. And what a lot of people do is that they literally put money into their HSA account to invest it there and let it grow. But any medical expenses that they have, they actually pay for it out of pocket on their own cards outside of the HSA. And the tax code allows you to be able to reimburse yourself at any given time. So if you keep the receipts as proof that this was an HSA eligible expense, you can literally go to the end of the year, have a tax deduction for those expenses that you incurred, regardless of what the limit is on how much you can put towards your HSA, and you are able to reimburse yourself from the HSA at any given point in the future. And this is what a lot of people are doing, is where we want to be at, is to be at the point where we're paying our medical bills like out of pocket and we reimburse ourselves from our HSA. So that way we don't take the money out of the HSA immediately when the expense happens. We can let the money grow and pay ourselves back when convenient. Now I want to get into the numbers because I always try to give you guys numbers as best I can. I ended up having, 3 visits for this incident. And the first visit was the initial visit, then I had to get an x-ray, then I got my cast. So I ended up being billed for $685.73. And then what I ended up owing after my discounts from my insurance was $288.36. And then the second visit, I ended up having a follow-up, the x-ray done again, a new cast, and then ended up buying, I forgot what supplies I ended up buying, but I had to buy some supplies at that visit as well. And that ended up with my share being $363.36. I don't have the original cost. I forgot to write that down. And then the third visit that I ended up having was when I got my cast off, and then my share ended up being $126.46. So that's $778.18 versus the $943 is what I would have got billed if I didn't have any insurance. And then the other things that I had paid for outside of just the doctor's visit is $7.33 just for the wrap when I was out on the bachelor trip. And then I ended up getting a shower cast because you're not supposed to get your cast wet unless you want to get the waterproof cast. And they said that cast is very itchy. And my biggest nightmare is not being able to scratch something because you know the cast went from here to here. So not being able to scratch wouldn't have been very fun. So I ended up getting the regular cast to be more comfortable. And that shower cast went over as a little sleeve so I can get in and out the shower without having to worry about getting my cast wet. And then I ended up buying a brace for my hand as well. I'm not wearing it right now, but it's a small brace. The doctor said that it would make it easier for me to sleep at night so I don't accidentally turn and like aggravate my wrist while I'm asleep. I wear it for the first night. I actually don't even really wear it anymore, but now that I'm starting to try to work out again, it's really helping to ease into trying to put weight back on my wrist, like doing push-ups and different things like that. So that cost me $22.79. So that retail was $51.57 with a grand total of $829.75 for everything. One other interesting thing to note here is that my insurance actually resets on May 1st of every year. And this incident happened in March and ended up wrapping up right before May. So this means that all of the expenses toward my deductible ended up going on last year's plan and they reset every year. So all of the expenses I just had for this ended up not going towards my deductible that's current today because it just reset. And obviously nobody plans to get hurt or injured or sick or anything like that to use these medical expenses. But it's like, if you have things where you got to plan a surgery or anything like that, you want to plan it all in the same year so that you can reach your deductible faster and not have to pay much money out of pocket. But to be honest, I don't think I've ever reached my deductible ever because, I'm a young person. I'm not really all that sick or nothing really happens to me that much, knock on wood for that. But it's one of the things I just wanted to bring on here as a lesson, and not really a lesson as in a good or bad thing, but just as like for you to know, because your deductible resets every year. So if you have things that you want to that you know that you have coming up, that you can control the schedule. You just want to make sure you try to put everything on the same window and be aware of when your policy resets at your employer so that things that go towards your deductible can happen. So for example, if I could control when I got hurt, I would have done it after May 1st, so that way I can have all of this go toward my deductible right now, because my insurance my insurance term was ending for my benefits. So this is one of the things I wanted to at least let others know, because it might be useful to you if you have something to schedule for yourself. I talked earlier about the 2 ways you can really use your HSA, and the one way is the way I'm using it now, which at least gets me the tax deduction and just being able to at least reduce my taxable income when it comes to this strategy. And that's just to be able to at least spend my money coming from the HSA and contribute to my HSA. And that's one way to at least get the tax deduction. But the other thing you can do is to have the investor strategy where you put your money in there, you let it compound and grow, and then you pay yourself back eventually with their reimbursements from your HSA by keeping the receipts and paying for everything directly out of pocket. Or you can do it where you're not even reimbursing yourself from your HSA. You just take the tax deduction by saying, like, this money that I have here for this receipt was actually something I used that was HSA related or eligible, and I want to take the tax deduction for that. So for me, I'm currently doing just the spending only, and like I'm literally at $166.55 in my HSA today. It's because obviously all these bills came in and ended up taking the money down from, I think, 1,000 or so is where it was at earlier. And one of the things I looked at from this episode is like, you know, I probably should start taking advantage of that. And it's definitely something that should be on my radar now, because it wasn't before, on something that I could take advantage of. And it is something where I was just looking like, wow, like this is a completely missed opportunity. Glad I didn't wait too late. You know, I'm not too old, I'm 26, so it's still time to compound. And our previous custodian, I think is what it's called, that used to do our HSA was a company that required us to have $1,000 minimum in the HSA account before they let you invest anything. Well, now that I'm looking at my current custodian, which is Fidelity, they ended up allowing me to invest anything that I have today in my HSA. So with that, now I have literally no excuse. I should be even taking my employer portion or anything like that and just start investing it to let it grow. And it's one of the things that's like, it's tax-free growth. Why would you not take advantage of it? And it's definitely something that I want to adjust, and why I'm saying here, like I said, to keep myself accountable. So just to really just put everything together into one big picture, as I usually always do, is the medical incident that I had where I broke my wrist was something that cost me around $830 for the 3 visits, and along with some of the items that I ended up buying outside of the visits. And then the cash was on for a month, and I still gotta, work on getting my range of mobility back. But the key thing is my system that I had in place absorbed it, which is I put some money into my HSA. My HSA is able to take that money that is saved over there and pay any active expenses that I have going on. And I was like, okay, cool, this works. This framework is doing great for me. Then I kind of looked at it when I was talking about, when I had this episode, I was writing this episode, I was like, this is interesting. I've always heard about the investing the money in your HSA, not really understanding how it's going to work, and thinking that I had that minimum because of my old custodian of the HSA account, and realizing that, oh, I don't need the $1,000 minimum. If that's the case, then putting anything would be a big deal because of how much time it has to compound. And on top of that, it's tax-free growth, as long as it's medical expenses, of course, but duh, it's the obvious thing to do. And it was one of the things that took me writing this episode to just really reflect. And I just want to put it out there to make sure that I'm held accountable if I don't come back and do this, especially at least after the emergency fund, and just take some money now that the risk is done and I'm not going to be going to the doctor nearly as much, to just go ahead and just start this at the very least. With that, I think that'll just about do it for this week. I still got the last claim like processing, so I'll see, but I'm pretty sure that the bill was final there. And then I still have some of the bills like there today. You know, the medical bills, they give you flexibility to pay it back. So I will still be paying those out of my HSA. I'm pretty much almost done with that. And then obviously just working on getting my range of motion back. So I know it's not really financial related, but it is life related. And I wanted to thank you guys for watching. Like, I really appreciate it. And I'm just curious for others, like, what is your health plan set up? And then why did you choose one plan versus the other? If it's high deductible, low premium versus the PPO, or if you even got another option, or maybe your employer covers everything, because we was talking with the Amazon driver earlier. I think it was yesterday, and she was saying that they cover everything. They don't have any copays, anything like that. At all when going to the doctor, and it was for the Amazon delivery driver. So I was like, you know, maybe your employers are still covering everybody's health benefits when it comes to certain employees. So just one of the things I was just curious what you guys have, and feel free to leave a comment below. But as usual, I'll see you next week. Mickens Financial Journey YouTube channel. Peace.